This is KMTV. My name is Nathan Charles, sitting on the Diaspora Talk. And today is Friday, March 8th, 2024. And we are here on the Diaspora Talk to bring sense to the discussion. What are the issues we'll be looking at from Liberia? Protests at Aqua Lab Mineral Factory in Burrillville, Moserado County. What are employees or Liberians saying about bad labor practices at that facility? Assets recovery team set up by Joseph Human Borka to bring back all government assets from those who are still in possession of that. Lawmakers are now gearing up. They want for the presidency to come from only members who are at that body, meaning if you are not member of the House of Representatives or Senator, they are pushing forth that, hey, you cannot be Liberia's next president. And we hear from Prophet Key, who's been stopped at the Locato border early this morning. Today is International Women's Day. What are Liberians doing to celebrate brilliant Liberian women in our society? War and Economic Crimes Code is a new order of the day in Liberia. Funati Kofa spoke to the BBC why other warlords like Prince Johnson, Thomas Yaya Nimling, they are not happy with the establishment of War and Economic Crimes Code in Liberia. My colleague Jackson George, a lead panelist on this program, is seated critically. Welcome, Jackson. It's Friday.
Oh, thank you, Nathan. It's Friday, and it's a good day.
Indeed. Let's move on to our first development here. The establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Code in Liberia. Funati Kofa, House Speaker, is on record for putting that on the floor at long last. Now, some lawmakers and warlords in Liberia are not happy. One of those is Thomas Yaya Nimne. He's saying that Joseph Iman Borka is out for failure. He should wait a while before signing that bill when he reaches his office because it will make his government unpopular. Listen to Thomas Yaya Nimne.
People that need rescue right now. Why you worry about Prince Johnson? Who is going to a Sunday, walking slow like Toto? Why you worry about him? Rescue your nation. Look at the hospitals. Look at the schools. Bring the teachers back into the classroom. Look at the behavior. Look at the gasoline, the roads that are being built. People can't get from one village to another. Those are the things you promised in your first 100 days. War crime code should not be in your 100 days. Take it from your 100 days and put it into your 4th year. When you are leaving power and you bring war crime code, nobody will care. But when you have this government in the first 2 months you bring war crime code, all your program will be undermined. Now all of you having confusion. Oh, we're gonna tie them up. We'll get on to Ghana. Did you talk to Ghana? This was a country that spent thousands and millions of dollars. They sent their children here during the war and they die here. Did you talk to Nigeria? Nigeria sent their children here and they die here in this country, and they continue to insist that the war in Liberia will end. Did you talk to Guinea? Did you talk to Cote d'Ivoire? You never talk to all of these people. They are against you doing what you're doing because Liberia is still fragile. We are peaceful, but we are not stable. This is not a stabilized country. Things are going on daily and nightly. This president needs to listen and to watch and to analyze. War crime code, move it from your agenda now. Move it from your agenda. The Constitution does not allow a white man to be citizen in this country. No white man is supposed to be citizen in this country. And you know who passed the first law? It was our brothers who came from America as slaves. And they said to us, the settlers, the originals that they met here, and they said, the white people are bad people. The way they treated us. So we came back now, we are free. But no white man should be a citizen in this country. And the other tribe, the Gola people, the Vai people, the Mende, they said, true. No white man will be citizen. And so white man is not a citizen in this country.
You listen to Thomas Yaya Nimlen there pushing forth his argument on the establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Code. This after a member of the House of Representatives endorsed the passage of that Senate to the House of Senator. Jackson Josh, what is the economic crimes code again back on in Liberia?
And then, when you heard Robert Bush, right? I think asset recovery is not just only war crimes code, war and economics crime code. So most of the thing that is going to happen through this process, asset recovery refers to the process of reclaiming assets that have been stolen, embezzled, or even obtained through corrupt means. So why the war crime code is one of the tools that are being it is being, that one of the tools being used to bring reconciliation and peace and justice to our country. Asset recovery is one of the major component of this whole process, and so there will be investigation. It's not just coming after people and thinking that because people build homes and have assets, you can just. There has to be an investigation taking place. There will be freezing of assets and seizure of assets. There will be legal proceeding. You're just not going to seize the people asset without having legal. There are legal ramifications. There will be repatriation of assets if they are abroad. There has to be asset management team put in place to retrieve or to investigate and get those assets. There will be victim compensation. When people illegally seize people assets, the victims should be compensated, and there should be prevention and deterrence. And so it is a difficult thing. You need international cooperation. You need commitment of the law enforcement agencies. You need a judiciary to be a part of the process, financial institutions, society. So, Nathan, it's a lot of things. So it's not going to happen in the first year, like Senator Nimlin said, do it in your fourth year. Who should take the brunt of it in the owner presidency? So I think it's time to begin the process. Again, I don't think the war and economic crime code is a problem. I think it's the way the message is being delivered. Even the perpetrator need day in court where they can come and tell their stories. I don't think they want this hanging over their heads for life. They and the families and the children will got this on their heads. I think when we get to court and they can tell their story and a verdict is made, their children will be vindicated. The families can live freely. And so this is not a witch hunt. This is not a time where we're going after individuals. But in our country, we say when you hear rope, rope, or bush. And when people think they're coming after one person, there are a lot of things out there. I'm just hoping that when this is put in place and the system begins to work, we should not then say, oh, no, 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 no. It's not how it's supposed to be because now my brother or my cousin or my family member is affected.
Okay, we have a special guest, Jackson Josh. Introduce our guest on the Diaspora Talk today.
Who, Alex? Is he on?
Yeah.
Alex Coffey is, Alex has been appointed as an advisor on the asset recovery team. We want him to come in and tell us what is the process, what the process looks like, and so that's why he was invited. So, Alex, welcome to KMTV platform. I know you're on another platform. We've heard a lot that you've said about the asset recovery team, but we just want our viewers to be able to understand the process, what it takes, and what the understanding of what asset recovery means.
Thank you, Jackson and Nathan, for the invite, for your last minute invite, Jackson. But
that's how make you a public servant.
Yeah, I took it to come amidst all the. My man, you know when your name appear on executive website, then your phone, man, not easy. I know how to go. I'm official and get money.
That's why they don't pick our calls.
Yeah, my man, the thing is it's overwhelming. It's like, but it's at the end of the day, it's a good thing because there's people are in support of you, and it's so overwhelming. And the one I just saw is the one from my wife. She posted something. And tagged me on my page. I just saw it actually because I was so overwhelmed with the calls and stuff. And the one with my wife, really, yeah, it touched me.
And what did they say?
Congratulating me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but Alex, let's go into action. You
talking about my wife, been in there talking about action.
Well, man, you are our own family. So, but on a serious note, thank
Okay.
you and congratulations again. But on a
Mhm.
serious note, what does it mean when you hear the word asset recovery? What does it mean? What is the process? How difficult it is to put a process in place to begin the process of recovering some of our assets?
So, I mean, let me just give a disclaimer here. I'm not here speaking in an official capacity and on behalf of the asset recovery team. I only agreed to this invitation to speak to the generality
Correct.
on my own, expertise in the area. So I will speak in that direction, and I will try to steer away from speaking
Correct.
for or on behalf of
Give
the.
us an overview.
So, in the context of crimes, which will involve corruption, especially within country context, there are guidelines. Of course, the UNODC, World Bank guidelines on asset recovery. So the process of asset recovery, that's a value chain of investigate, prosecute, convict. Of course, you got to get a conviction, and then, but during the investigation process, you got to identify the proceeds of crime, and then you recover. That recovery process, of course, sometimes it can take longer.
Mm-hmm.
It can take a long time. It's a very tedious process. It's a very legal process. But basically, the proceeds of the crime, that is, proceeds of crime is John, does corruption. He takes public money. That's the proceeds from the crime. He takes that money. He tried to shield that money. He tried to launder it. Sometimes he tried to launder it too as well, right? Because money laundering is money, dirty money that you're trying to clean. So money
Okay.
gained for criminal activities. But in this case, the type of financial crime we're talking about is the corruption of government, the bribery, converting government's public money, public money or public property to your personal use, right? So you take that money, you put it somewhere, or you put it in properties. You buy land, you buy cars, you buy different things. That is a process of crime. So the process of crime must be identified, and that's the process of the crime, the process associated with the crime that you are being convicted of. That you could commit the crime, other crime, and there may not be proceeds. You can be taken to court and something else is done to you. But in this case, if you steal government money, public
Mm-hmm.
money, and you are taken to court, that money, if it's located in your country, is easier. You can use mechanism, country mechanism, legal, there's illegal implication as well, but they can use country system to get it from you. When it's abroad, they can use legal mutual assistance, they can use the FIU mechanism, they can use Interpol, they can use diplomatic methodology and things like that. But once it's abroad, it becomes difficult to the extent that they can even extradite people to come back to their country to,
So,
face
so,
justice.
so, Alex, for the population, for the Liberian public,
Yeah.
what is the benefit? How does it benefit Liberia? This asset recovery, how does it benefit the Liberian people?
So asset recovery benefit people and countries, and in this case for Liberia, will benefit Liberia in different ways, right? The first thing it would do in itself is a deterrence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deterrence means it will, you know, discourage people from doing it, because where no action is taken on people, there's something they call impunity. That is, people feel emboldened that they can do it, man. But if John did it, nothing happened to me, I would do the same thing. where there are no rules, where there are, what do you call it, the law is not enforced, right? People tend to think that it's the order of the day, right? You live in America, Jackson, and things like stop sign. That your office there, the place I get my office too, right?
Mhm.
Why not? I see nobody, but that stop sign near that building, I gotta stop
Yeah.
because I know if I don't stop, I know the consequence, right? So we gotta begin in countries, in third world countries and countries like Liberia. We gotta start from somewhere where people are punished, and if you took public money, that money is taken from you, or whatever you did with that money is taken from you, so it can deter people from doing it. Another point is if that money is gotten back, that money could also be used, or that property could be used for the benefit of the government, for the people of the country, so the government can use the money on the people. Now, the bigger picture is when there is deterrence, when the law is being, it will also encourage law enforcement in the country. The fact that you do it once, you catch people, whether they're your mom, whether they're your pa, whether they're your brother or sister, you catch them. The more people stop doing it, the more you will free up government money, the millions of dollars that goes into corruption. It will be minimized, right? The corruption will be minimized. So therefore, that money will be available to the people through the budget system, for the country to use those money for developmental purposes, right? So there's a wide range of things, but there's a cost associated with it. In recovering assets, there's also a cost associated with it. But then the cost, the benefit must outweigh the cost. The benefit will include the amount of money. So if you spend 50,000 on these people who are going to do this work, they must be able to recover maybe 500,000, right?
Mhm.
In terms of cash or property, they must be able to that benefit. If you spend $2 million to do this work in a year time, you must be able to get 10 million, 20 million back, right? Then you know that it was worth doing it.
So Alex, let me ask another question.
Mhm.
Jackson George leaves from here. He's hired as Minister of State or Minister of Agriculture, whatever, right? He gets home and his salary is it just this is just a scenario. His salary is 3,500 or $5,000 a month. In 6 years, Jackson is able to build two compounds. Jackson is able to own a house in Dubai. Jackson is able to send his children abroad to school. Jackson does not have a business. How does that work? Is Jackson on the list of that? I mean, is that something that the recovery team will start looking at Jackson and saying, how did Jackson acquire all of these assets?
Now, mind you, now they have ongoing processes, right? So in Liberia's case, we have the General Auditing Commission that does ongoing audits. We have the LACC that does corruption, because it's called Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. So it focuses on corruption, right? That is why LACC asks you to declare your asset when you take in office, right? That is why LACC knows your income, right? Your income as a public official, your income become public. So that is why the law also provides that after 3 years of service, even though you stay in that position, you're supposed to redeclare your asset, right? And that is why LACC has a process of verifying the assets that you declared in any way. So, and then you also, when you're changing from when they take you from that Ministry of State and they take you to another appointed position, you sort of declare your asset again,
Okay.
right? Even though every 3 years you declare your asset, when on an assumption of every new position, whether you're leaving one position to the other, you sort of declare your asset. And your asset is traced. So when they see a significant gap in your asset that does not commensurate with the income, the kind of income you're getting, then there's a red flag. it triggers an investigation by LACC. Now, an asset recovery team is for specific situations, right? Take, for instance, this is likened to when the President of America appoints a special counsel for a special Watergate or Jackson Gate or this other gate. Their process is restricted to just looking at that particular thing, right? In this case, because actions were not taken against a lot of cases, a lot of situations. So in that case, the asset recovery team will have an open field to operate, but it's not going to interfere with ongoing things. Or you can get feeder from GSC, from LACC and those places to also, they're going to look for more value added things, right? Not low hanging fruits thing.
Okay.
That's somebody to, but so that's, normally they look for, more value added.
Before I turn to Nathan, one more question. Let's say in America, here, before you buy a home, right?
Mhm.
And if you got 30,000, 40,000, they want to know where that money coming from. Who gifted you the money and other stuff. So let's say Jackson is in Liberia. Jackson is moving 200,000 through his account, wiring 200,000 to this account internationally. Is there anything in place to say, to tell our government and say, look, Jackson left from here. He had $1,000 in his account. In 6 months, Jackson is wiring $200,000 into this account, this account. Is there anything that alert us or tell us and we just complacent and not doing anything about it?
So in that case, they have these different institutions like, as I started to say, right? I talk about the GSC, I talk about the LACC. I said that the GSC conducts regular audit, statutory audit. That's by law, right? The LACC investigate corruption cases, different merit of it by law. They also have what you're talking about. They also have the internal audit agency that, does the audit before before things happen. That's internally. They're with the internal audit arm of the government. Then they have the Financial Intelligence Agency, right? It's normally around the world. It's called the acronym for it is called FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, but every country can name it different way. In America they call American UNIFINS Financial Investigation, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. That's FinCEN. In Liberia recently, the name was changed. The law was revamped, and the name was changed to the Financial Intelligence Agency. So there's a Financial Intelligence Agency that look into those kind of things, money movement, the movement of money. So when Jackson George transferred 200,000 to Liberia, for whatever purpose it is, the moment you transfer that money from the bank, you transfer that money from in America, if the bank has reason to believe that that money needs to be looked at, the bank will raise a red flag. In fact, the system itself got indicators. Every bank is required by law, to protect the international financial system. Every country is required to have an FIU, and every financial institution is required to have what we call a compliance program. Banks have FIUs as well. In America, I work with banks FIUs, right? So a report is triggered, right? And it's looked at by the bank. If the bank found out nothing wrong with it, or the man is a legit businessman or he's a legit man that legit income, they leave it. When it gets to the bank that you send into Liberia, that bank will also, based on its bank system, will also generate a report. And the bank figured out, the money now, suspicious money, then they will send it to the FIU to do further investigation on that money and on you. They will check you out. And if there's reason to believe that our money, they stay not satisfied, Then they send it to the appropriate authority to look at it, to do a formal investigation. And if they found out that crime involved, they will send it to court.
Has there been any example in our country of that?
Yes, there have been example of sometimes those kind of funds can be frozen. There has been an example of freezing. There have been an example of court cases. The FIU in Liberia has assisted with other court cases that borders around finance as well. Have there been conviction? No, not yet. And that is where the system is compliant, effectively compliant when there are convictions. So we have not met to a large extent, to a good extent, not even large, the effectiveness compliance because we're not getting conviction and recovery yet. But there have been confiscation, there have been freezing, those things have existed, yes.
Now, Mr. Coffee, President Joseph Boakai appointed a committee to go about assets recovery. You being an expert, what is your own suggestion and strategy that we can adopt in Liberia to recover government assets?
So there are two things involved, all right? And if the first one is, then two things involved, and we're going to talk, right? So there are two things involved. There is the low-hanging fruit situation. We've had this problem from one administration to other. During the people's, when the government is sitting, whether it's Charles Taylor government, whether it's Ellen government, whether it's we are government, we've had this problem of people converting government's property to themselves. Some people, when they're leaving the position, they take the furnitures, they take the cars, they don't want to bring the car back, they change the VIN number. Some people are even from time to time, they are occupying government building. There's big confusion over that stuff, which can result to court cases and things like that. So those type of government properties, that's the first, that's one side of it. That government need to retrieve those assets, right? So you notice that recently when the real government was about to change here, we heard stories about people taking cars, people taking furniture from their office, those kind of things. And people going to change the VIN numbers for the cars, people going to different things. So that aspect has to be dealt with. And in fact, it should have been dealt with long time. Immediately after the inauguration, there should have been a task force that was put in place to go after that kind of stuff, supported by the General Services Agency. So there is a component of that to it, to retrieve government properties. There's a component. The other component is, now people, like I explained earlier, the real asset recovery. So that part is property retrieval, to retrieve the existing property that people holding on to. Then there's the asset recovery now, the asset recovery that is based on the crime now, the corruption and those things that now there has to be a serious investigation by people who are competent, people who are qualified to do such job, right? And when I read the executive order, which is a public information, so I can speak to it, there are elements of that that allow that to happen, to get experts to kind of look into the people who are occurring with investigation, asset recovery type investigation, financial crime investigation.
How long you think it takes to carry on one investigation?
So in Liberia, from my personal experience, for example, when we did the PIT investigation, it took about 2-3 months. We had a mandate, yes.
So you can run with it. You think it takes maybe a couple of years for some of the investigation to go through and for prosecution?
Some of the investigation, especially when it has to do with when you want to, because you have to trace the asset that you're talking about, and you got to identify the asset and what happened. And now, if the asset is located abroad, if it's in a country that is shorter, right, and depends on the type of investigation, it can be shorter. But when the asset, when they now pass through different layers to hide that, and it ends up abroad, and the person too is not in a country, then it takes some time because you have to interview, you have to get witnesses, you have to use forensic science to get certain documentation. You got to get phone log, different things to.
So let me ask another question. Jackson George funded money from Liberia, sent it to his brother, and his brother is purchasing properties abroad for in his name, not in Jackson George's name, but in his brother's name. You find out that his brother is working maybe in a factory or have a decent job, but the amount of money he makes abroad does not it is not enough to purchase those property. So would Jackson George brother be extradited to Liberia? Extradited to Liberia? Is that something that he bears part of the weight of the crime?
Come with that scenario again, please. I didn't.
So Jackson George is in Liberia. He sends money to his brother in the United States or in the diaspora to purchase property for him in his name. So the property is not in Jackson George's name; it's in somebody else's name now, and that's an asset that is acquired because the money came from Liberia. So in that scenario, if the investigation is going on, would my brother be the one extradited to Liberia based on the investigation and based on the facts?
So you are the point. You are the initial point of the investigation. But
Correct.
if the investigation finds out that your brother is complicit or knowingly was involved in that concealing asset, yeah, then he's aiding and abetting that crime. So he's also complicit. He can be taken as a suspect and investigated too.
Thank you.
Because he knows. I mean, even if he doesn't know that you're sending him 100,000, you know that but we're gonna 100,000 and man sending me every month. He's to ask question. He's able to ask questions. So in that direction, yes, he can be found complicit.
And I'm not know if you're the right person to answer this, but how does it tie into the economic crimes that a few people have been attached to? Is this executive order? Is it part? Is that now easy to say? Okay, the people that had economic crime, we can start with them first, since we have people that have been sanctioned. Is that where the process begin, or the committee will have to make a decision as to begin?
So in those direction, because you're talking about the end result is recovery. The word recovery is the end result of an asset recovery tax for or team or commission. The end result is recovery. So something must be there before you recover, right?
Correct.
So you got to be careful in identifying the cases that you want to pursue. You can pursue cases where the person didn't take anything. So there has to be some scooping done, right? If your investigation, for example, is based on off of audit reports, right? You have to scan through the audit report properly. In fact, an asset recovery team was supposed to look at, like for example, previous audit reports that were not dealt with. You got to look into it and scan through it and identify something that you want to go after. It has to worth millions of dollars to want to go after it, because you're spending $1 million and you want to get $5 million, you want to get $20 million recovered, right? So you not go for people. Some report says that compliance report, the people did not follow procurement rule, they did not do this. They didn't resolve to stealing money. If it didn't result to stealing money, asset recovery team will put it one side. They're not going after it. You're talking about doing real criminal investigation to identify processes of crime to recover. You want to bring those stolen money back to the country. So you will scoop. For example, you look at LACC previous investigative reports that have not been dealt with. You want to bring them back on the table. You want to look into the FIU. What have the FIU done? What are the challenges the FIU have? Are there people who are evading taxes and nothing has been done? What are the enormity of that tax evasion? Are there business people that have done that? It's just that, that are preventing us getting our money. Do we want to go into that to recover evasion? Do you want to go into, I don't want to be specific here, but for the generality of it, you want to identify cases. And so it doesn't give a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't give a time frame that, it might be this other place, or it might be that other place, or it might be this number of years. But mind you now, they be guided by the law in terms of statute of limitations, which I'm not a legal person, so I can't.
So Alex, would there be a court, another court set up just for this process? Because our court system, for this to work, it has to go through our court system as well. Would there be another court set up just for this process, or we're going through the regular court system?
Again, your question is very direct. You want me to speak for the team, and
okay.
So I will answer your question this way.
Okay.
I will answer your question this way. While we may have challenges with our judicial system, but we have the courts, we tend to sometimes it's good, but sometimes, we got a law on this thing. We have not tested a law, but we want to change the law, and we're concentrating on wasting time changing the law without testing the law. So the first thing we do, we test it. So we have the criminal code A, criminal code B, criminal code C. So it's the political will to make these things happen. Where there's a lack of political will, people will find a way to obstruct the system. Now, it doesn't mean that there has to be a specialized corruption.
No, what I was saying, to expedite the process, I was not talking about the process, the court by itself. I'm talking about setting up a special court just to expedite. It could be a lot of cases. So if you have a special court that is not clogged by other cases, then they are just going to focus on dealing with these cases.
If you had a corruption court per se, right, that just deal with corruption cases, public money, financial crime, right, then yes, it will be easier to use that code. But I'm speaking, do we need that kind of code? Yes. I'm speaking for the fact that, there's an asset recovery team that started at work. Then you say, wait, let's organize new law to organize, and because for you to do the corruption code, there's a law, right?
Correct.
Uh-huh. So if it takes 3 more years, are we going to wait?
No.
Uh-huh. So we got to use the existing code, and we got to use the political way to get that existing code to work until we get the.
Let me ask you another question, Alex. Do you think right now we have about 9 banks in our country, maybe 9? Most of our banks are foreign banks. Do you think it made it easier for people to be corrupt because most of the banks are foreign as compared to if those banks were Liberian-owned banks? It make it easier to process and to get those things done using government as compared to we live in the country, this is ours. And if they come back to haunt me, I can get into trouble.
Well, before I answer that question, let me go back. So, for example, they are not talking about a war and economic crime code, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, certain economic crimes, huge ones, especially the ones that have to do with monies gained from all these activities, right? They can go to that code as well. So if that code is established, a good code for corruption cases, a good, because say economic crime is the same as financial crime, is the same as corruption and stuff like that. So that code can be used as so if the earlier that kind of code is established, the better for even an asset recovery situation, because serious of these cases could go there, but some of these cases could go to the existing code as well. But to answer your question, whether if I understood your question, let me rephrase your question. Whether the advent, the existence of quote unquote foreign banks allow for criminality or allow for more corruption, is that what you're talking about?
And that's a summary of what I mean.
Why should it be? I don't think so. And what type of corruption are you talking about that
Well, what
foreign
I'm
banks
saying
will?
is, if we believe that there's massive corruption in our country and most of the money is being wired out of our country, they're not putting it in grapes in suitcases and taking it out of the country. It has to go through one of these banks or all of these banks that are in our country. So if Jackson George is making $3,500 or $5,000, and Jackson is wiring 200,000 out of the country every 3 months or every 6 months, something has to be done, and that's why I'm saying the complexity of these foreign banks. I'm just saying I don't know, because it to me it's kind of difficult for me to launder money or to wire a lot of money in my personal account. So when we talk about corruption, it sounds difficult to me, because how can I wired $500,000 from my bank, from one bank to a foreign bank, and there's no red flag and there's nothing happening?
To your, I mean, to answer your question directly, I would say no. Then what you're saying is development will not come to a country. Of course, in a country, when population is growing, problem is growing, right?
Correct.
The government now the more children you have, the more problem you have. So you have to put on your stiff shoes now to discipline your children. The more children you have to work harder to get more money to send them to school, right? So the more the population grows, so with growth, with economic growth, come those things. These are things that spur economic growth. If the country is growing, you will see the indicators for growth of a country is more banks are coming in, more foreign direct investment is coming in, and stuff like that. So how do you expect for more hirings? Because the financial institutions, the more they are, the more people they
No,
hire,
no. I think
right?
you're missing my
No, no,
point.
I'm not missing your point. I'm coming there. I'm
Okay.
coming there. So now that is why all these different structures are set in place. The anti-money laundering processes are set in place. And those international banks are the ones that are more compliant to anti-money laundering measures because of the fact that they have parent companies outside, because of the fact that those international banks, especially the West African one, they have their corresponding banks, their own corresponding bank in London, in New York. We subscribe to most scrutiny, right? So their presence is good. Whether you have them or you don't have them, the local bank also have what we call corresponding banks, which are sitting down somewhere else, and they use them to transfer money. So if you can have 20 local banks, if money will go through them, money will still go through
So
them.
then
It
then
depends on
what
the system and the enforcement you have in your country.
exactly? So
Mhm.
then the problem lies within ourselves. Then it becomes the political will, because
So I will give you an example.
as a layman sitting from
Mhm.
the outside, it seems impossible for Jackson George to be transferring 200,000, 300,000, sitting down as deputy minister.
So you are spot on that one. It depends on the laxity of the system. It is not the presence of the foreign bank, it's the laxity of the system. For example, from personal experience in like working Liberia, when the whole I started the FIU in Liberia, when the whole process started, the system was not existing, but there was methodology that were employed by the central bank to kind of oversee that until the FIU came and took over that aspect, right? So the system was becoming. Before then, there were challenges. Sometimes Liberia had a difficult in transferring money. Some of our local banks didn't have correspondent bank because of certain things, certain cloud that was on our country because our anti-money laundering system was not strong. So people were, afraid to do, sort of business. Or in fact, some of our local banks were struggling to get correspondent bank. So we got, because we have this repetition on us, right? So some of them were even going through some of the West African banks that are in the country to use them to transfer their money. But when we strengthen the money laundering situation, when the banks started sending reports, suspicious activity report, and currency transaction report, we started getting some more confidence. Then new correspondent banks started, you know, answering to these other banks. They started getting their own direct correspondent bank. But as time went by, in the last few years, the system the system sort of it couldn't lapse because enforcement mechanisms were relaxed to the extent that confidence was no longer in the system. So people now had the audacity to do things. So it depends on the enforcement. It depends on the way we enforce these things that we already have existing.
So, Mr. Coffee, you spoke about enforcement. So, enforcement mechanism. I'm concerned. Is Liberia a hub for money laundering?
Liberia was a hub for transnational crime, or was complicit in years back, according to reports. But Liberia instituted, through the help of the Treasury, the World Bank, and IMF, and African Development Bank. When I started the FIU, they helped, right, with the process. And that scenario started going away. But over the last 2-3 years, I mean, we've seen we are moving away from that, and we are getting to the point where we are becoming sort of a point of transit again, and that has to be reversed because we have the system, we have the institutional capacity in place, but it's just that the enforcement mechanism were lapsed because of things that are happening in the country.
So
Okay, this is the Diaspora Talk. Jackson George is here. Mr. Alex Coffee from looking at the assets recovery team set up by Joseph Iman Boka. What can Liberia do or Liberians do to help safeguard the assets of government and government officials who are hiding these assets? He said, Mr. Coffee is saying that, hey, if government is going after the assets, it must match the economic benefits to the country. Jackson Josh is our lead panelist. This is a Diaspora Talk. We're looking at major issues from war and economic crimes, court establishment to assets recovery. Jackson Josh.
yeah, Alex, we want to thank you for coming and explaining to us some of the intricacies of this whole asset recovery program. It's gonna help our country. I think it's a good thing. So before you go, could you summarize um, what it takes? I mean, you've done that in so many different ways, but can you summarize again for our viewing public what the immense benefit it brings? I like the deterrence that you talk about. I think it serves as a deterrent because now we can enforce it. But one question I want to ask: you call it the FIU or FCIU?
FIU.
The FIU, do they just have investigators, or they have a security arm that works that can go in and arrest, or it's just investigators and then they turn it over to the security apparatus or the right agency?
Yes, they are like the FBI of money.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot of mechanism in getting reports from. It's like the football team. They're like the number 6. They're the Mayfield on the team that received the ball, just dribble and pass the ball, right?
Okay.
So they receive these reports from financial institutions to they work with the Central Bank of Liberia as well, at the regulators of financial institution, and to some extent where the central bank itself could have reason to believe that certain government
So what
transactions.
you're saying is that the number six, what you're saying is that we go after Jackson George, we investigate, we find him we find him with asset, we turn him over to the right security agency, and that could
Yeah,
stall.
we pass into the number 7
Yeah,
to
but
score the
that could
goal.
stall. That could stall within the security agency. There could be no investigation for so many months, and even if you send it to the court, that stay another long. So it's just like the drug enforcement agency can go out and arrest, but if the guy is on the street the next day, there's nothing he can do. He just got to arrest again. So this is a compound complex problem.
Great. You remind me about an experience in Liberia. So we did a presentation to element, international community. We laid it out in 30 minutes. Everything was okay, and the guys, the ambassadors said, "Wow, Alex, you guys are doing a great job. Everything seems to be working. I see all your system. Everything is in place. But in the same token, we can see you being frustrated because the value chain, because it leaves from you, it goes to the number 7 or to the number 9, and the number 9 screws the ball up, but he doesn't score the goal. So how do we ensure for each time you pass the ball to the number 7 or to the number 9 or to the number 10, he will score the goal? And the goal is the goalkeeper there is the next goalkeeper there is the coach and the conviction center. And then maybe the number 9 is the prosecutor. Maybe the number 7 is the GSC, I mean the LACC or the LRA or the National Police or the NSA. They're the ones able to pass the ball to the number 9 for the number 9 to score, right? So we get the report from the banks, we analyze it, we do our own investigation, we figure out, there's something wrong here. And it put us on terrorism, for example. We see that we follow this money. There's a trace. When we follow the money, we see that we send our intelligence agency, that's where we spend intelligent money, because we may not use our staff, we may use other agents to do certain things, to get certain information. We get this information, we realize, oh, this thing is big. Let's send it to NSA. And in every country, like where I work in America, as soon as you, as an investigator, you find out that it's terrorism, you report straight. You don't waste time. But you send it to NSA. The NSA sit down on it, right? And they do nothing. And who is the major interested person in that particular scenario? You can tell me? Which country?
The U.S.
The U.S. The U.S. have keen interest. And U.S. Treasury is visiting us every quarter. And they're seeing that, my friend, this particular case border on our interest, and nothing has been done. Then you go sit down with a very U.S. ambassador and say, oh, my man, you please give us support because we doing all the Google work. And the guy said, but your NSA did not score the goal.
Yeah.
I do give you more money for you to operate. So it gets to the extent where if most of the other institutions are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, it becomes difficult. That is why you need a political will.
Correct.
That is why you need a political will from the president and from the legislature to make these things work.
The three branches must work. So, Alex, we want to thank you for coming. Hopefully, we can call you again to bring in your expertise to try to educate us. So, thank you so much for coming. We know you're a busy man. And so Nathan?
All right, I see you. Thank you for having me, Nathan and Jackson.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Coffee. We are always here on the KMTV Diaspora Talk. Whenever we have the time, we'll always reach out to you. Thanks so much. I learned a lot of things, and I just got to know you established the FIU. It's a year, but that long time. I know I attended a couple of the conference from the central bank. Somewhere I was in working with the central bank a long time ago.
No, That one, Nathan, that one a few days now, you know, that one a few days, even though I left 5 years ago, something happened to the FIA, but they call me, they say, my man, what are you doing? I said, I left 5 years ago, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Now, Leo, I beg you.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right. Thank
thank
you.
you so
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Let's take a break from our sponsor. When we come back, we look at other issues and wrap this program up. Don't forget today is International Women's Day and celebrate a Liberian woman. Let's take a word from our sponsor.
Let your celebration begin with Fat Liquor Outlet, your first Liberian-owned liquor store in the city of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. We have everything that you need to set that special occasion or bride. For your next party or great get-together with friends, visit Park Liquor Outlet. We have great selection of beer, wine, gin, and many more at affordable prices. Our customer service will make you always want to come back. We are open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Park Liquor Outlet, your one-stop celebration store. We are located at 6315 Zine Avenue North, Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Visit us today and feel the difference.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kent. Welcome to Brooklyn Chiropractic. Come to Brooklyn Chiropractic if you're having any back or neck pain. Especially, we specialize in treating people in auto and work-related injuries. So we've been established here in Brooklyn Center for the last 14 years. And one of the pleasures that I have is helping out in the community. We've sponsored a lot of events throughout the years in the community, and we really appreciate being a part of the community. So if you're experiencing any pain, give us a try. If you want a drug-free way to get better. Thank you.
Today is International Women's Day. Liberians from all walks of life have been celebrating Liberian women who have made hair marks in Liberia. Jackson George, the celebration was held in Liberia. Women from all sector, including the security sector, advocate department sector, they were all in attendance at this program. Let's play this video. When we come back, let's hear from our panelist Jackson George on women's participation in Liberia. Why should we celebrate them? Jackson George, International Women's Day today. What role can you retrospect women play in our democracy?
I think, first of all, we must give honor to them. I think equality is something that we should fight for all our women. Liberia is no exception. I think this, looking back into history, I think they started like 1909, and the first one was 1911 when it started in the United States. But Liberia is unique in a sense with all of our traditions and customs. Women have come a long way in the fight for equality, and so we must continue to bring in our women. They can do exactly what we can do, in fact, better than we do. I think if we had a lot of women in leadership, we would not have gone through our civil war as we did. It would have ended. But I think the equality is something that we should all fight for. We should not see women as second-class citizens. We should understand that they are capable of doing even better than we do. So I applaud that. I like the fact that Liberian women are picking up. They are entrepreneurs. They are doing a lot in Liberia. In fact, I would say are the women in Liberia that keep our economy rolling.
women keeping our economy rolling. Protests at Aqua Life when the company organized a program to welcome the new beer factory in that area. Let's play you this interaction. Protests all around Liberia.
We crying! No food, no water! We need justice! Wow! Wow!
Okay.
What up, God? What up?
That one one, the company here but no water in the community, right? Is that an issue? The company here, but there's no water for this community.
No water, no salary increasement. Now where people eat it, people in 5 years, they're not taking care of it.
So that's divided.
Yes, sir.
They put the community on one side, they put the workers on one side.
Yeah, to the community. Some are million years, we the community, but the toll, not getting a toll, telling we can't. Some of them ready to do it tomorrow, we're not seeing that again. And that coming by here. The one I told you, I'm all your body, who coming by here? Go it. Say, yeah, all here. Who coming by here? The better go, grab your people in the work, grab more work, go to school back.
Okay, so let me understand so God to take off the There's the Minister of Commerce. The Minister of Labor is down here, but we're raising with them. So one, their social corporate responsibility is supposed to put water in the community, right? And there is no water in the community, right? So the citizen of the community want the company to make sure there are 2, 3 water areas they can put it in the community for people to go there and get water, right? Okay, that's one. The second one is there are young people or people who come here to work in the bad labor practice.
Bad labor practice.
They're not paying them right. All right.
Rescue.
These are the 2 issues. Another one there again.
Jackson George, what do you make of that interaction? Jeremiah Cohn pleading to protesters right in Belvedere who were protesting bad labor practice under Joseph Human Burger leadership.
You see, Nathan, first thing, I like the way the vice president is interacting with the crowd. First, he's not hiding anything. You know, he wants to understand, or he understands, but he wants to hear from them. And he's trying to separate the community engagement from a bad labor practice that this company is having, if we say that. But that's where democracy come in, and I'm happy that we have a responsible government that's not shielding anything, but is willing to work through the difficulties to bring solution to the community's problem. And so that's what it is. I agree that most of these companies operating in these areas need to carry on the social corporate responsibility to help the community. But I think there's an undercurrent happening in this country as well. There must be investigation as to why all of these protests coming down. These companies been there for many years. Why now? Is it because of a change of government? Is it, so there has to be some investigation to find out why are these things happening. Is anybody behind these protests? But it's always good for protest. It is always good for people to voice out their opinion in a peaceful manner. I think the economy is not growing so fast that these companies that we think are underpaying should be paying high rate. With the purchasing power is kind of low, and so we have to devise strategy to export out of our country so that we just 5 million people. How can we be a hub in the West African region so that we are exporting to Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Ivory Coast so that we bring money into the country? So it's not an easy fix. Many of the times when you're sitting from the outside, you think it's easy until you own a company, and then you begin to understand how difficult it is. Sometimes in a whole day, it's not easy. Business is a roller coaster. So yes, those companies been in Liberia for a long time. The localities where they are located, people must benefit, and so we all have to work to that end. But I think the way the vice president is interacting with the protesters, I think that's the best way to do it. Understand their problem, sit with them, walk through their problem, find the leaders, give them something. It's a give and take in such a negotiation. So set a time frame, meet the company, talk to them, and see where they can do. Many of the times, again, Nathan, I keep saying when government does not have the budget, I would say in previous government, we got to pay civil servants, we got to do all these. Some of these companies have given what their social corporate responsibility will have done to the community, to government, to carry on some of his obligations. So they have nothing left. And that is why I don't think any company will go in and don't want to do nothing in the community. But when you look at it, we don't have the budget enough to carry on all of our programs. And some of these companies are paying 2-3 years ahead to government so that government can carry on in the program. So it's a tough balance, and it takes a responsible government to balance some of these things so that the people in those locations can see some benefits in the community. There has to be some benefits given to these people, because Liberia has changed. Liberia will never go back to the days where people are not going to speak up their minds. Liberia is not going to go back to the days where people cannot see. Like I say, everybody has a cell phone in their hands. That's the most powerful machine on earth. And these people can see development in other countries. They are not going to stop talking. The young people will not stop talking. They need employment. We need to create more jobs. And so until we create more jobs and get these people to work, we're going to have some of these problems that we have right now, Nathan.
Yes, indeed, Jackson George there. Sorry, I'm trying to come on. Okay, Mr. George just giving his view on assets recovery, how our companies in Liberia can help improve the life of ordinary. He says, government job is continuation. So, hey, this is how we let the wind down, Jackson. Any other major issues you want to show light on as we wind down on a Friday?
Well, I think, like I always say, we need to increase our budget. We need to look into the diaspora. The diaspora has always been a helping hand to our homeland. We need to look into the diaspora and identify Liberian investors and Liberian investment. We need to encourage Liberian investment into our country. Again, many of the times when because it's Liberian, we don't put special attention to attracting Liberian investors into our country. And I think it's time for us to look into the diaspora and look deep and get Liberians that can invest into our country. Because when we invest home, it is for us. Those companies that are coming, granted, we love them, but they're going to take their profits away. So, like we take our profits from the United States. Can you imagine Liberians in the diaspora send millions of dollars home? What do you think we're sending it home? It's for us to help our country develop. It's the same thing those people are doing, sending the money from our country out of the country. So you can't blame them. So we need to attract more investment from the diaspora. We need to start looking at all of the institutions outside of Liberia that can help our homeland, bring them around the table, have a conversation with them, and see how Liberians can invest into our country. Look, if we're 500,000 or 1 million in the diaspora, if we all contributed $1 per month to diaspora development fund, we can carry on massive development in our homeland. But it takes an organization, it takes the leadership, and it takes all of us to have a mindset of that nature to be able to develop our homeland. So Nathan, that's what's on my mind. How we can all in the diaspora help to rebuild our homeland.
Yes, we must rebuild our homeland. Liberia is all we have. We say put your money to where your mouth your mouth is. And like you always say, Jackson, we have to stop remittance and do what?
Turn it into economic development.
Let the people hear that word from your mouth.
No, I'm not saying stop remittance. What I'm saying is that we've used it for so many different reasons, personal reasons. I think it's about time for us to come together, pull our resources, and build the infrastructure that we need. We need low-income housing. We need electricity. We need better healthcare. We can pull our resources and build those things in our country and build wealth. It's not just free. We're not just giving our money to government free. But if we pull our resources, we can build better hospitals that people can pay to come to. We can add to the electricity grid. We can better build schools. We can, there's a lot we can do if we pull our resources as Liberians in the diaspora to invest into our country. We don't have to do it alone. Alone we can't. But in a co-op kind of a way, we could do better.
Yes, indeed. Thanks so much. That's before we leave. Let's say
remember, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu.
Yes, as we celebrate World Women's Day, let's say congratulations to some a strong, energetic female journalist in Liberia. You see the pictures there, Siata Scott Johnson, Abigail Brishow, Siwa. We go to Lisa, we see Fabian Kuya, Fasia Harris, and the list is endless. These are all powerful women in the Liberian media. For KMTV Diaspora Talk, we'd like to salute you girls and women in the media. We say continue to push the pen because your voice matter.
So Nathan, if I don't say that to my mother, my wife, and all of the women who've played major role, my daughters, and other women who play major role in my life, happy International Day. Thank you for your impact in my life. Made me a better person.
Yes, without a woman, you would not be a better person. Same to all my parents, relatives, females, and all of my daughters all around. We say, hey, happy International Women's Day. Enjoy yourself from Brooklyn Center. My name is Nathan Charles. Cyrus McGill and Joanne Prasi are affiliated with this program as well. Jackson George, our lead panelist, has been talking. We've been quizzing Ellis Coffee on the issue of access recovery on the Diaspora Talk. Catch us on Monday with another fascinating development from Minneapolis in the United States. Have yourself a wonderful day.
Let your celebration begin with Park Liquor Outlet, your first Liberian-owned liquor store in the city of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. We have everything that you need to set that special occasion or bride. For your next party or great get-together with friends, visit Park Liquor Outlet. We have great selection of beer, wine, gin, and many more at affordable prices. Our customer service will make you always want to come back. We are open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Park Liquor Outlet, your one-stop celebration store. We are located at 6315 Zine Avenue North, Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Visit us today and feel the difference.